You are watching CIOTV by Enterprise IT World, a production of Accent Info Media.
Welcome to CIOTV.live, a sister concern of Enterprise IT World, MEA. We have been speaking to lots of stakeholders in the industry, try to understand about their viewpoints on various technologies that are influencing the enterprise market. We try to understand about their adoption strategy, their technology affiliation, whether it is cloud computing, automation, 5G, and so on and so forth. Today, we have got two gentlemen who are experts in their field, and they are pretty active in the customer industry, trying to solve the challenges of the customers from the technology point of view. I've got Mark Ackerman, Area Vice President for Middle East and Africa ServiceNow. Mark, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you to be here.
I do have also Gavin, Maxwell, E&Y, MENA Global Business Services, Financial Transaction and ServiceNow Alliance Leader. Gavin, welcome to CIOTV.live and this conversation around the technology.
Great, thank you, Sanjay.
Mark and Gavin, thank you very much for taking time out and speaking to CIOTV.live. And now, before we enter into our conversation, if you can delve a little bit deep into understanding the big trends, those are influencing the digital transformation in the customer market. Mark, if you can start speaking about it, and maybe followed by Gavin's comment on this.
Thanks, Sanjay, and thanks, Gavin. I think when turning on the news, it'd be fair to say the picture being presented is that the world is in crisis. Between global warming, politics, war, and recession, companies now have to learn how to deal with all this uncertainty and become more agile about it. But these concerns can also be converted into opportunities to be more competitive and innovative. So we believe there are a number of trends where ServiceNow can help solve, but where customers can also focus in terms of their business and how they run. If we look at some of the trends, over 50% of customers believe that the issues aren't being taken seriously by the various companies they're dealing with. This has a lot going on around the world of customer experience right now as people try and compete. And I think what we've seen in the last 2 to 3 years, it's really brought us into this digital domain. If you think about your world today, I'm sure many of you have your own personal examples, but if you think about interacting with a company, whether you call them or use email or some other form of support, very often you'll be waiting on the line for a long time, or you'll get transferred to somebody else. So you'll have to rehash your name, the problem, and then very often you have to start over again, or you just get disconnected. So this is happening all the time because there's this lack of great systems to connect the front office and the middle office to create that unified experience for the customer. The second trend we're seeing is that a very large percentage, up to 70% of workers are demanding a more meaningful purpose within work today. So that's led to things like the Great Resignation, which we see is dissipating slightly now, but even down to the point of what we call the quiet resignation, which is becoming something more prevalent. And this is having a very real impact on organizations, and it's really impacting the bottom line. So with so many people working remotely, it's created an enormous psychological pressure on these workers. And what really has transpired is they need a great experience that's aligned to what they do every day, giving them the balance to balance their work and personal lives. So creating an incredible employee experience has become an imperative, as there's this war on talent virtually in every industry. Another trend I'll touch on, Sanjay, is about 72% of worldwide companies are really thinking and considering sustainability as a key priority. So we're hearing a lot around ESG and how that has become a boardroom discussion. This is so important these days that it's even getting to the point where it can be moving the stock price. So this is relatively new ground for most organizations, and most are looking at new ways to solve this problem. And then just finally, if I take the last couple of seconds, I think companies are trying to deal with the pace of change. We've heard from CEOs globally about, over 90% of them feel that they're not concerned about how the model is changing, but whether they can get their operating models to keep pace with the change in the market. And this is largely down to different siloed systems and the fact that their IT strategy today is not quite keeping up to their business strategy. So they need more of that speed and agility, the ability to innovate and compete in the markets that they work within. This is especially hard for companies that have already in the midst of trying to move technologies, whether it's legacy or on-prem technology into cloud. And this spans a massive opportunity to really define how services are delivered to customers, employees, and suppliers, very much in this global business services model. So yeah, I think that's some of the points that I would really bring out, Sanjay, as what we're seeing in the marketplace today.
All right, so let's hear from Gavin.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think Mark hit the nail on the head with all of the points. There's very little that I probably would add there. My view of it would be, if you look from an external perspective, you certainly have challenges in a number of markets, challenges full stop. In some markets, we're seeing challenge or the risk of a recession and a contraction in the market potentially looming. And then in other markets, like in MENA, you see this real expansive transformational agenda that's being driven. So both bringing challenges, different challenges that organizations need to deal with. I think the second part, and again, I'll paraphrase what Mark had said, I think it's about experience, user experience, employee experience. And so that demand for the ease with which we buy on Amazon to be part and parcel of every aspect of our life as we interact with anybody. And then linked to that, and again, I think that transformative purpose that Mark, you touched on, I think is core. If anything is, if anything through COVID, I think the driver for that great resignation is, why do I work and what gets me up in the morning? And organizations seeking to pivot to bring out the best in their people by unlocking that purpose-driven organization, I think is new and exciting. And organizations needing to, I think organizations that win the war for talent will be the ones that get that right and maintain it over a period of time. On maintenance, I think the one area possibly I'd push on a little bit more is sustainability or resilience. So not in the ESG context, but resilience of the organization to major disruption or change. So supply chain disruption, people disruption. Again, we've come through the last couple of years as a stark lesson learned in terms of the resilience organizations may not have and how they then scramble to adopt or adapt. I think now it's around, how do you build something that is sustainable in terms of resilience of the organization while still being cost effective, because the reality is there isn't that luxury to carry huge amounts of inventory or to have excess people in the workforce. And then I think the final aspect, and again, Mark, you've summed it up very well, is the ability to actually affect those changes. To begin with, how do you end up disrupting yourself? I love the phrase, the only way to stay relevant is to look to make yourself obsolete. And so as we've come out of this last challenge of COVID and moving into potentially an economic crisis in a lot of regions, it really is around, how do you disrupt the way that you do business and what your business might even be, so that actually you're there and as a leader in the next phase. So I think I couldn't agree more, Mark, with the key points that you've raised.
All right, Mark and Gavin, you touched up on very critical and crucial aspects of the industry. ESG, one point you said. The other one you said about the sustainability. I think that this is something, a boardroom discussion, which is often happening these days. But the other thing is that technology adoption to comply with changes that's going to happen. What is the kind of role redefined for the CIOs these days? In Western markets, in American market, the CIO's role is something different than the roles or the CIOs being perceived in MENA region, in the Middle East region or Asia Pacific region. So do you think that the boardroom, the management is actually cognizant about the importance of the technology? Are they listening to the CIO suggestions?
I mean, if I jump in first on that one, maybe I think it would be fair to say that MENA, whilst historically you might have said there's a difference in terms of the role of technology adoption within MENA, and as a result, the relative power of the seat at the table of the CIO in MENA, I think that's rapidly changing. So if we look at a number of the organizations and just focusing in on maybe the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia right now and what they're doing on some of the giga projects, the intent is to be digitally native in most cases. The easy phrase would be that we want to leapfrog everybody else and go and set the bar. And as a result of that, digital is just what they do. And what we're doing working with clients right now is how do we use computers or technology for the ordinary and humans for the extraordinary. And I think that's the key aspect that a lot of the organizations here, the larger organizations and government in the region are driving. So technology at the heart of how they operate, I think, is core. If you look at it within MENA, just for, as you mentioned, the MENA focus, government is core to a lot of the disruption and growth in terms of the industries in the region, which is different to in a number of other countries. So government leads rather than lags. And again, the steps that governments, whether it's in the UAE or Saudi, have taken to really drive a digital agenda, a paperless office, and give citizen services at a touch of a button, 24/7, I think is extraordinary. The ambition that they have is even more extraordinary. And the reality is they're making it happen. So I think that reliance on digitization to really come back to that citizen experience, I think is setting the bar. And then I think, as I said, the organizations, the larger disruptors within the region itself really are going digitally native. And so Mark referenced before, having some kind of a connection between the front office and the back office, the customer or the citizen, and how the organization delivers those services has now become part and parcel. And that's a little bit of a segue to something like tools like ServiceNow. But ServiceNow really is a world-class leader on making that happen. So rather than having to, if you are a legacy organization, rather than being disrupted by these new startups that can go digitally native from the start, a product like ServiceNow then allows you to play a little bit on equal terms with those who are coming in with a blank sheet of paper in terms of what their architecture is, regardless what your legacy is, in order to be able to give the same kind of an experience to your customers and to the citizen ultimately as well. So I think we're starting to see a rapid leap forward from a MENA perspective in terms of technology. So I don't see much of a difference now between the role of a CIO in MENA, in the larger, more progressive organizations, and in any other more mature market or global organization as well. Don't know, Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, Gavin, thanks very much. And yeah, again, agree with all the points you've made there. I think the real opportunity here for CIOs and back to the relevance at board level. Never before has the technology strategy been so much the business strategy, as you pointed out, with a digital economy and what we're doing and the likes that we're seeing in the kingdom and the paperless environment here in the UAE. So I think it's probably the best opportunity ever for a CIO to really transform and not become, not just think of them as a chief information officer, but an innovation officer. I think there's a real opportunity now to take that innovation to board and really start looking at these macro trends. Again, through the lens this time, it's always been said, looking at, understanding the business from a technology and IT perspective and delivering business solutions. But I think now it's more imperative to look at it from a customer experience and employee experience, and removing technology debt to serve those 2 points around agility and resilience, which is so important to board right now.
I think Mark as well, part of that one is the speed to value as well, right? So the beauty of the cloud enablement now in a lot of technologies are they're quick to deploy. So rather than the CIO in the past presenting to a board a 3-year ERP journey and seeing the value potentially in 5 years' time, you're now looking at deployments of ServiceNow in 6 or 9 months, seeing immediate benefits. And that allows for in-year benefit, and as a result, far more attraction to the board if they're trying to meet quarterly or annual targets. So again, I think they have the better tools now to really enable change for the organization.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing the tool-based single solution is being falling away now, and really the mantra of nobody has to lose in order for us to be successful as an organization is really got to be more and more pivotal. So when looking at, we're seeing less and less of the bold CIOs going in and ripping out entire ERP solutions or core banking platforms, but rather to create those experiences that run across those systems of excellence as they were, and really creating a seamless experience is way more high priority than creating a big multi-year project around ERP, for example.
All right. I think I heard about these are very key pertinent points that you have raised. There is willingness in the region. The government is pro change, pro technology, pro cloud. Now, what's happening? I was also personally speaking to some of these CIOs, very large organizations CIOs. They're saying the challenges for us is very many than those organizations which are not very legacy, having any legacy solutions at the back or legacy applications at the back. For them, it's very difficult. The challenge is to change from quickly from an existing application set to a new application set. So what, according to both of you, are the real challenges for the organization, those who are not new age companies, those who are not born into cloud?
I can jump in if you'd like, Mark, first. So with all new technology, the key decision is adoption. If organizations aren't using the technology, then they aren't able to affect the change through the technology. And if people have legacy, if organizations have legacy systems, there's a prescribed way of doing things. I wouldn't like to make the extension to say legacy systems, a legacy organization, a legacy mindset, but again, you can see that at times as well. So for me, the easier it is to infuse new technologies into how people work in an intuitive manner, the more that we're going to get adoption and see the business benefits of it. So, I'll give you an example where obviously from a consulting perspective, change management becomes one of those areas that we preach for all major technology implementations. It's not about the technology, it's about the change. But what we're seeing now is a pushback on some of the tools. And again, let me mention ServiceNow as an example, because the feeling is that it shouldn't be a change for our people that needs to be trained. So the challenge I'm getting from people now is to say, you were not trained when you used Amazon for the first time. It wasn't even marketed. Somebody by word of mouth told you that you need to go and buy on Amazon app. You downloaded the app knowing how to do it yourself, and you figured out how to buy within seconds. And really, it should be the same seamless, intuitive experience for every interaction with an organization. And so that's what the bar is now set at, I think, to help those legacy organizations to bring change along. And so, when we're looking at something like ServiceNow that makes it seamless, most of the work behind the scenes with a very simple user experience, that I think is what's going to be one of the pivotal drivers for organizations that are pivoting from legacy. Mark mentioned the fact as well. Now, I remember at times before supporting organizations putting in Oracle whilst they were still putting in SAP globally. And so we were putting in Oracle and ripping out an SAP system, putting in an Oracle system, while another part of the world was still putting in the original system. And thankfully, we don't see too much of that anymore because, again, a lot of the newer technologies, like how ServiceNow works, says, okay, your systems are actually fit for purpose potentially. Let's not try and remove them. Let's augment them and change it so that we're giving you what you need, rather than just driving a large IT change with a dubious business case coming back in. So I think that's probably the main one I would suggest for legacy. The other aspect of it is business case and making sure that it is business case driven. The total cost of ownership now being able to move to new cloud-based solutions with different types of pricing and with low code, no code, or simpler configuration and no customization is really changing the landscape of what it costs to run an IT unit, but also how easily or empowered business users are around the use of that technology. So it's no longer sitting in the IT floor, and if you need to make a change, submit your paperwork and wait and see. There's a lot now that business users can do firsthand, which again is an exciting part for a legacy organization. So they would be my initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, just very quickly to close off on that point, Gavin, as well, Sanjay, is the business case is imperative. We have to be able to prove to business what is going to be moving the needle both on the top and the bottom line. But very often the paperwork is not done until we've actually realized value. And I think it's imperative and really important for the technology leads, the CIOs, to really go back to business and remind them of all the value that has been delivered through these digitization projects, because we all know today is the best it's ever been, and yesterday wasn't as good as today. But if we don't remind ourselves, then we won't get permission to move into tomorrow. And I think those are the key things. So build a business case, and then make sure once these features and functions are delivered, that we have the value and we can prove that realization off the back of that.
I know that both the companies are very strong in this region. Gavin, for you particularly, if you can say very briefly about some of the joint solutions that E&Y and ServiceNow is bringing out to the market.
Sure. Yeah, and again, we've been in the MENA region for a long time, EY, so we're 100 years next year in the region, which is remarkable. And I say that because we came out, it was originally set up around innovation. So innovation for bookkeeping for the original oil and gas explorations in the 1920s. And really that hasn't changed. And so if we look at innovation of today, it's obviously not oil and gas in Iran or Iraq or somewhere like that. It is how do we bring new technologies that can really affect and change the way, to build a better working world. And that's what I think we found with ServiceNow. There are a number of areas, again, I go back to at the start I mentioned, this is all about creating a user and a customer experience, because if you get those right, the rest works from that. So if you can do it in a sustainable, effective, cost-effective manner, then it's a winning formula. And that's where we've seen ServiceNow really support. So for me, some of the major trends and how ServiceNow has been brought to our clients, I'll start with just the simple driver around global business services, shared services, centralization, consolidation. If we look at some of the major changes that have happened, for example, in the Kingdom, where they've transformed how they've structured the water sector, the energy sector, what they're doing in healthcare, and that consolidation around building a world-class organization by bringing together all of the parts that are around a kingdom that's the same size as most of Western Europe or continental Europe, then you can see how something, ServiceNow provides the glue to start hanging it together so that there's a seamless user experience and so that you can drive efficiencies and workflows and really have transparency as you're trying to run that organization. And to be honest, so we've recently done a survey globally of leading global business service organizations, not just in MENA, this is across the world. And over 90% of the world's leading shared service organizations use ServiceNow for their service management. So I think from that perspective, ServiceNow is the world-class leader in that. There's obviously concerns around resilience and around GRC, compliance and the regulatory risks, as well as moving into cyber. And this is an area where, again, we're seeing a lot of demand for how ServiceNow can provide support to our clients in that space, building on from some of the traditional internal capabilities or systems capabilities organizations have, and really putting an augmentation to the capability there. So in GRC, I think there's certainly another clear area. We've talked from the start around the employee experience, and I think that's another area, that seamless interaction with the organization. The region, for those based here, very familiar with NOC letters and salary letters and a whole lot of HR admin, which actually can be quite a burden to everybody, the organization and the employee looking for it. So by being able to use something like, by being able to use ServiceNow to transform and automate a lot of those activities, it's really just a win-win for everybody. Again, suppliers are getting far more mature, and the way that they can interact with organizations the same. So we're seeing the same use of ServiceNow in the external supplier-facing side of the house. So I think, there are a number of areas. And then let's not forget, the original core around ServiceNow, around IT and supporting organizations far beyond just ticketing, but actually looking at predictive support from an IT perspective. So taking that front foot and being part of the business value add. And again, ServiceNow's use cases and ability to be able to support an end-to-end view of IT within the organization, again, is second to none. So I think we're seeing quite a lot of things where it is at the heart of how the organization is run, shared services, IT, at the heart of who they interact with, the customer and the employee and supplier, and then wrapped around with a support from a GRC perspective to ensure continuity and safety of its operations. So a very end-to-end package. So really excited, seeing significant investment and interest from ServiceNow in the region as well. And our clients are seeing it as well. So look forward to seeing ServiceNow's stellar growth in MENA.
All right, and Gavin, if I can extend this conversation, maybe 30 seconds more as to what is the kind of growth that you're seeing in this particular business, ServiceNow business. Gavin.
From an EY perspective, I mean, so we're looking at exponential, to be honest, because we started with a low base in MENA. So we're globally, we've been very close with ServiceNow. MENA, we're seeing, I would say we're looking at hundreds of % growth in the next 2 to 3 years, looking at organic and inorganic growth and looking at it across the market. So we're delighted that we're now reselling in the UAE, looking to be able to start doing it in the kingdom itself. At some stage, ServiceNow's adoption of Arabic language and a cloud in the kingdom will be a welcome. We can't wait for that to be able to continue to accelerate things. And in the meantime, there's very, very effective ways of making sure we can deliver that value for our clients in the kingdom. So I think it's been a great part of our business. And again, really, it's exciting because I go back to, it's a no-brainer. The user experience and the business benefit are both intertwined. So it's a pleasure of product to work with.
Excellent, Gavin. Thank you very much. Mark, similar question to you, very rude in the sense as to what is the kind of value do you see this relationship with E&Y? I know that one side E&Y is supporting you in customer engagement. And the other side also E&Y is pushing your business ahead, as Gavin said. So what is your view from pure value perspective that you are visualizing in this relationship?
I appreciate that, Sanjay, and a big thanks to Gavin. Obviously, he articulates the value of EY and ServiceNow better than most. And the potential for the relationship is really so massive. What we have the fortunate position of, from both Gavin and my perspective, is both Carmine and Bill, our respective CEOs, have committed to in excess of $1 billion in terms of collaboration and business, which makes make our lives a lot easier in terms of aligning our organization with our customers. But I think importantly, ServiceNow works exclusively with our alliance ecosystem in an indirect model with our customers in the Middle East in order to deliver this world-class experience. And for us, EY is not only the regional and industry experts, they are the force multiplier for us. So we absolutely take this this alliance and combine EY's ingenuity with our leading digital workflow platform. And then by collaborating and innovating together with this workflow automation that enables this connectivity across the systems, we can really then deliver those great efficiencies and seamless human-centric processes to our customers. So, there's so much span for growth within the relationship, with their deep industry expertise as well. You heard Gavin talking about a number of the giga projects and some of the real deep industry expertise that they have from this 100 years of experience. That, with the combined co-development on the platform, really enables us together to deliver these boardroom-based solutions, driving top line and bottom line respectively. So, together we reimagine what business can do and what people can do, and that's really what's building a better working world with ServiceNow and with EY.
All right, gentlemen, a closing comment from both of you. A message, in fact, for the CIOs. Mark first.
No, I think a message to our CIOs is reach out and speak to us. We are absolutely keen to get together and have the art of the possible discussion, and really to co-develop innovation and solutions which you can take to board.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd probably say, today is another day you're never going to get back. So in a number of these cases, it's a case of not waiting. And the systems, the investments are nothing like in the past. So it is around being able to progress quickly, show business benefit quickly. And again, today's never coming back again, so don't waste it.
All right, Mark, Gavin, both the gentlemen, thank you very much for taking time out and speaking to CIOTV.live. Hope this conversation brings value to the customers, the enterprise market as well. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thanks, Gavin.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Mark Ackerman, Area Vice President for Middle East and Africa at ServiceNow, and Gavin Maxwell, E&Y MENA Global Business Service, Finance Transaction and ServiceNow Alliance. You heard both the gentlemen speaking about a lot of the things around sustainability, around ESG, around innovation, around growth also. If you are keen to listen to them more, you can drop mail to me. Thank you very much for watching.